We're here at Identity Week America 2023. I'm Eva Kimsing, editor of identityweek.net, and we're here now with Brian Broderick, who's Division Chief for the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. It's lovely to meet you, Brian. How have you enjoyed the event so far?
Oh, it's been great. It's always great to connect with industry partners, and especially working in this remote environment, it's great to see people in person and get to interact. So it's been great so far.
And we've had, some of the travel industry and government representatives at this show today, and it's a priority for both in terms of immigration and protecting national security. How do these parties work together in terms of sharing information in relation to citizenship requests and?
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit indirect, but the good news is that the information is shared. So both TSA and Citizenship and Immigration Services fall under the DHS umbrella. And so really what USCIS is responsible for is adjudicating citizenship requests and all the different immigration benefit requests that come up to that point. And so really what we provide to TSA is a status of that individual that states that they're allowed to be in this country and they have the documentation to do so. All the background vetting that we do really comes through DHS and through the FBI, the DOD, and other sources, and TSA has access to that same background vetting information. So while we're not directly sharing that data with TSA, we're both pulling from the same source and have access to the same sources.
And you must have come across this scenario where fraudsters are using stolen identities, photographs, but submitting legitimate applications. How are you combating this issue? Yeah, great question. We do. We see this, if not daily, weekly. So first of all, we have a full directorate stood up within USCIS to really investigate and dig into this. It's called FD&S, or the Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate. So this is a large organization that gets referrals when there's suspicion of these type activities and then does kind of a deep dive into an investigation, working with law enforcement partners, working with ICE, CBP, the FBI, and others to kind of get to the bottom of it. But what we've been seeing most recently, especially with the surge at the southwest border, is we've been seeing fraudulent interview appointments and appointments for our application support centers where we collect biometrics and collect photos. And we've actually been seeing people paying thousands of dollars to get these appointments. So there's actually people selling them. It's not too difficult for us to handle this as they show up on site to give their fingerprints and get their photo taken. We check identity documents. We provide an entire person-centric history of their immigration journey from the time they apply to a visa overseas to the time that they arrive and go through CBP at a port of entry. And so we really have that full immigration history in front of us, and it's not hard to tell when it's not the right person, especially when they're showing up for fingerprints and for a photo. So it's really a whole of agency and a whole of DHS effort, but we're very much alert for it and battling that daily. Have you considered security features for identity documents for refugees and asylum seekers? Right. So USCIS directly has not. We don't have identity cards for them. However, I did a little research. Health and Human Services and the Office of Refugee Resettlement does provide a card to refugees that basically, again, states their status and that they have the authority to be here. For asylees, we don't do that. However, for asylees and then most recently the parolee population that's coming through the southwest border, one of the first things that they do when they're allowed in the country is they apply for an employment authorization card. And that is really, that's a federal document that we issue with a photo, with their immigration status and all their information. And so that's really, between those two programs, I think those populations are covered with an identity document. Are data protection policies in general adhered to with regards to citizenship applications? Yeah, absolutely. We take privacy and protection of individuals' data very seriously. The primary way that we do that is in our electronic systems. We have protections in place. Everything is need to know. Folks have to request and get access to our systems, and then even within the systems, there's roles and permissions so that folks are really only getting access to what they have and need to know, and not just
carte blanche access to the entire database. In addition to that, we have special protections for vulnerable populations. One of them is the VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act, and that is under 8 USC section 1367, and in our electronic systems it actually presents a pop-up banner which warns people that this is a vulnerable protected population, tells them what their responsibilities are with handling this data. And then the same for refugees under 8 USC 806. Same thing, they get a pop-up warning. And then for our paper files, there's actually a cover sheet that provides that warning about the information and tells folks what their responsibilities are. So we take PII and the protection of that information very seriously every day. We'll lose credibility and lose efficiency if we don't.
Sounds very great. Thank you very much for talking with me today.
Great, thanks for having me.